To all those doubting my NFT, you're looking at the guy that's the reason that college athletes and high school athletes are getting paid today. Mr. Influencer to influencers. Secondly, Jimmy Kimmel, viral this. I fight to eradicate childhood malnutrition from the planet. And until they release the flight logs, you, the mainstream media, Hollywood, are all pedophiles to me. Eat dick. Am I canceled yet.com?
Tells us that there's a really new way of thinking about who is going to get infected. We used to spend a lot of time talking about 6 feet of distance, 15 minutes of being together. We realize that's actually not the right way to think about this. That's not the kind of the most accurate way to think about this.
No shit.
What we know about this virus, particularly these very contagious subvariants that are out there right now, is it's really about the quality of air you're breathing around you. In a crowded indoor space with poor ventilation, you can get infected within minutes.
I appreciate your input, but please, fuck off.
How soon before Americans will see the benefits of this, and the big push tonight now planned with this victory, 84 days until the midterms.
Their goal, to convince Americans that this will reduce inflation and help their bottom line. Nearly $740 billion in all, with major investments in health care, expanding subsidies to help 13 million Americans pay for insurance, and capping prescription drug prices for Medicare recipients at $2,000 a year. And starting next year, ensuring they pay no more than $35 a month for insulin.
You reported as we were on the air this afternoon with this bill signing that it's going to be some time before some of these savings kick in, for example, the prescription drug savings, but they are coming for millions.
But look, this timeline, so much of this doesn't kick in until after the midterms. That prescription drug cap that you mentioned, it doesn't start until 2025.
What did you say?
That prescription drug cap that you mentioned, it doesn't start until 2025.
Well, isn't that special?
The act goes into effect. I hope that all of the provisions will begin to work. I know that those who've been blaming President Biden for the inflation going up are now giving President Biden all the credit for inflation going down, President Biden all the credit for inflation going down. So we're moving things in the right direction already.
Yeah, and what parts of the bill do you think will quickly work on that specifically?
Next question. Next question.
What a bunch of fucking bullshit.
If you think about Biden, honestly, it's sad when you're watching some of this stuff. I mean, I just think back to some of the other presidents we have. Think about like John Kennedy. You think, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. You think about President Reagan, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. When I think of Biden, I think of him staring like a deer in the headlights at the teleprompter. End of quote. Repeat the line.
I'm proud to name Dr. Monica Bertel. Get it right, Doc.
Fuck you! That's my name!
Bettignoli. I better get it right because I married Dominic Giacoppa's daughter.
The efforts to diversify teachers in Minnesota, it's been ramping up this year in the state legislature, paving the way for this new policy and debate just weeks before the school year begins in Minneapolis. Now, critics say that the policy's effort to diversify, the policy's effort to actually reverse discrimination could actually be discriminatory.
This morning, the Minneapolis School District is sticking with its controversial policy to lay off white teachers before minority ones, regardless of tenure.
Can you say that again? Just the way you said it.
is sticking with its controversial policy to lay off white teachers before minority ones, regardless of tenure.
Oh, really?
Previously, district-wide layoffs used to be handed out based on seniority. In March, the Minneapolis Teachers Union negotiated a contract with the district that states non-white people can be exempted from layoffs in order to remedy the continuing effects of past discrimination.
That's not how it works.
Oh, the irony! It's too much!
Several black educators in Minneapolis in agreement with the contract.
When they see somebody who looks like me and maybe looks like them, they feel a greater sense of connection and belonging in that community.
Others believe the new policy will do more harm than good.
There's different ways that we should be hiring, but we should not be implementing hiring decisions based on the color of people's skin.
Well, no shit.
You don't have to go to hell. You're in hell. This is hell. This is hell. This is hell.
Because democracy basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
Then strangled them, and finally dismembered their bodies.
Right.
Then do
available.
and homelessness and all that. And now, the voice you've been waiting for.
There is a secret song at the center of the world, and its sound is like razors through flesh. I'm here to turn up the volume. I'm kind of retarded.
Seeing as how the current state of affairs in the world is enough to make even George Orwell wake up in the middle of the night with a cold sweat, you gotta kind of take the time to really enjoy the small little victories wherever we can have them. So when I woke up on Wednesday morning and I saw the news that Liz Cheney, aka Miss Piggy, had lost her primary by 37 fucking points, I was just grinning ear to ear. And then I saw the little concession speech she gave where she actually compared herself to Abraham Lincoln.
The great and original champion of our party, Abraham Lincoln, was defeated in elections for the Senate and the House before he won the most important election of all. Lincoln ultimately prevailed, he saved our Union, and he defined our obligation as Americans for all of history.
Wow, it's hard to believe that that bitch is crazier than her daddy. And it's actually being shopped around the idea that she might really run for president in 2024. I don't see that actually happening, but it would be hilarious if she did. She can't run as a Democrat. She's voted with the GOP too many times. She would get crucified. And is she gonna primary challenge Trump? Oh, that would be a hilarious debate. Or maybe she'll run as an independent and there could be possibly 5, maybe 600 people that are stupid enough in the whole country to vote for her. But it's just a funny idea to think about. But come January, she'll be out of the job. Maybe she can get a spot as the new windbag Republican on The View. That would be a pretty fitting place for her. But it's not like she really needs to work anymore. In 6.5 years in Congress, she managed to rack up $36 million. That's almost $6 million a year on a congresswoman's salary. Amazing how that works. But whatever, just so long as she leaves, I could care less whether she lives, dies, or grows mushrooms in her crack. Please go away. And then the next day after getting that news, I find out that Brian Stelter is losing his job at CNN. Much like Miss Piggy, this was no real surprise to anybody. His ratings have been total garbage for quite some time. And he'd become most famous for getting owned by his own guests on the air.
But maybe that's how it works sometimes,
I don't want you to think...
Is that how it works? That's how you get access?
But I don't want you to think that what I said at that point was in any way inauthentic. I think the media has done a terrible job on this. I think you yourself, while you're a nice guy, you're full of sanctimony. You become part of one of the parts of the problem of the media. You come on here and you have a monopoly on truth. You know exactly how things are supposed to be done. You are one of the reasons people can't stand the media. Sorry.
You're cracking me up.
It's your fault.
So what should I do differently, Michael?
Don't talk so much. Listen more. You know, people have genuine problems with the media. The media doesn't get the story right. The media exists in its own bubble.
That's true. I agree.
You got to stop. I mean, that last segment that I just had to listen to of all of the people saying the same old stuff. Also, you're incredibly repetitive. You know, fake news, and you say virtuous news.
No, we just figure out what is real.
I mean,
I'm listening.
Well, figuring out what is real is not so easy, and right. You know, most people don't want to turn to Brian Stelter to tell us what's real. I'm sorry.
Well, then why'd you bother coming on CNN a few times this week?
You know, I'm a book salesman.
It's gotten to the point where every time I hear that guy talk, I hear the Mark Dice voice. Speaking of which, Mark Dice has a brilliant send-off video, a hilarious little in memoriam to Stelter's career. I'd recommend checking it out on YouTube. But his estimated net worth is around $10 million. But seeing as how food prices are going up so fast and the way this guy fucking eats, he might have to be finding a new job. I hear the IRS is hiring. But truth be told, part of me really is gonna miss him. I mean, he is, for entertainment value alone, worth keeping around. And much like the new press secretary, Karen Jean-Pierre, sacre bleu, when she inevitably gets shit-canned, I'm gonna miss having her around because these people are just so stupid, so ineffective at their jobs that it's hilarious to watch them try. And the bullshit that they go trying to push just backfires because they're so awful at pushing it. But apparently somebody at CNN got hip to that fact, and so he's out on his potato head ass. Sayonara. I'm sure he'll find something to fill his time with. I always kind of pictured him wearing a clown suit, stained with the blood of small children, but that's just me. I mean, look at the way the guy smiles. Whenever he gets nervous because he's being insulted, he makes the perfect, like, cartoon Joker face. It doesn't get much creepier than that shit. And while I'm on the subject of arrogant people with shit for brains, I gotta mention this Sam Harris thing. Now, when I first heard about the story, I thought, Sam Harris, never heard of her. I googled his name and it popped up that he was an American philosopher. While he was getting interviewed, he decided to say the quiet part out loud.
Hunter Biden literally could have had the corpses of children in his basement. I would not have cared. I mean, like, there's just, it doesn't even stack up against Trump University, right? Trump University as a story is worse than anything that could be in Hunter Biden's laptop, in my view, right? Now, that doesn't answer the people who say it's still completely unfair to not have looked at the laptop in a timely way and to have shut down the New York Post's Twitter account. Like that's just a conspiracy. That's a left-wing conspiracy to deny the presidency to Donald Trump. Absolutely, it was. Absolutely, right? But I think it was warranted, right? And again, it's a coin toss as to whether or not
Sam, I'm sorry.
That particular piece.
I'm really sorry. I was the one that said we should move on, but you've just said
it.
something I really struggle with there, which is you're saying you are content with a left-wing conspiracy to prevent somebody being democratically re-elected as president.
Interesting.
Well, no, I'm content. Well, but the thing is, it's just not left-wing, right? So Liz Cheney is not left-wing, right? Liz Cheney is doing everything in her power
to prevent somebody being democratically elected.
But there's nothing conspiracy. It's not. It was a conspiracy out in the open. But it doesn't matter if it was. It doesn't matter what part's conspiracy, what part's out in the open. I mean, I think it's like.
You could tell this asshole doesn't get his ideas challenged very much, because as soon as he got the least little bit of pushback, he started hemming and hawing and yeah, backpedal as much as you want. You literally just admitted that there was a conspiracy to subvert democracy and the will of the people because fuckheads like you know better than us unwashed masses. We're all just a bunch of idiots who need to be told what to do at all times and protected from ourselves. I only wish more people would be this candid about their douchebaggery. Please consider liking, subscribing, sharing this video, or leaving a comment. Because every time you do nothing, Vladimir Putin will shoot another puppy. And in other news, NBC decided to report that the sky is blue and water is wet, and oh yeah, it's sex between men, not skin contact, that's fueling the monkeypox outbreak. New research suggests. Way to report on what everybody fucking knew anyway and acting like it's some kind of breaking alert. It's kind of like Jamie Dimon, the head of JP Morgan, coming out and saying, oh, you know, something worse than a recession is coming likely. Well, thank you for that, dickface Captain Obvious. Now that you and the institution that you head have had so much of a part in engineering the collapse that we're about to fucking see, oh, now warn us about it at the last second and act like you care. But don't worry, when the House of Cards comes collapsing down, they'll have plenty of ideas for ways to move forward, like maybe a global digital currency.
They have a timescale to 2030 for absolute transformation of human society, including the widespread connection of the human brain to artificial intelligence, so artificial intelligence becomes the human mind. The script that's been unfolding since the card was played, it does not end now, clearly. I mean, it's pushing on. And in this script ongoing will be many, many other events, claims, and happenings that will be designed to push forward. And I've just asked people to keep this in mind, to push forward towards this Hunger Games society. Remember that structure as these events unfold. Because if you look at lockdown was economic destruction of businesses that were not in the corporate network. This is why the great corporations, the cult-owned corporations, have increased their market share massively, while small business and medium business have gone under in enormous numbers through lockdown. Lockdown was part of the creation of that dependency of the population. Because while you have independent business and independent employment, independent of the few at the top, the cult as I'll call them, then you do not have dependency, which equals control. But if you can destroy that independent business network and destroy that independent income, at the same time that you are taking jobs galore from people using AI and technology, then you are bringing people into a state of dependency upon the few. So you've lost your job and you lost your business, and oh yeah, your job's gone to AI. So how are you going to put food on the table? And this is where I've been writing about this for decades, and it's now being trialed all over the world. Not trialed, it's being introduced. It's called the guaranteed income. And the guaranteed income will be a pittance, relatively, that will be given to people who have no other form of income, which is increasingly more and more people. But it will come with consequences. You get your guaranteed income only if you do what you're told.
And maybe some new bug farms to feed us cricket flour. They're already starting to slip that shit in. Look closely next time you go to the grocery store at the ingredients list, because it might just have cricket flour in it. And this is just the beginning. You will eat the bug. You will be tracked, traced, and scanned everywhere you go to make sure that you're not using more than your carbon allotment. Hopefully humanity is collectively able to stop all this Great Reset bullshit from coming to fruition. But even if we do succeed, the next few years are going to get pretty bumpy. According to the FBI and the federal government at large now, people that are of the preparedness mindset, preppers they're often called, they're now classified as extremists. So if that isn't enough to tell you to get off your ass and start squirreling away some shit for a rainy year or two, I don't know what will. And until that hammer finally drops and all of a sudden the stores are completely empty and the supply chain is completely broke down, you just gotta keep your head down and do whatever you can to prepare yourself for it and to warn people that are willing to listen to do the same. Of course, there's going to be those people that are so smug and they just laugh at you and call you crazy. When that happens, just move on, because there's absolutely nothing you can say to make them take the state of the world seriously. Sometimes people are just intent on learning things the hard way. So fuck it, at least you tried, right? In one final bit of news, we're still dealing with the fallout and waiting to see what comes of the Trump raid at Mar-a-Lago. The Epstein-linked magistrate who signed the warrant has agreed to allow the affidavit in redacted form to be made public. So that should be coming out sometime later this week. Who knows how much of it'll actually be redacted. It'll probably be useless because it has so much fucking blacked out shit on it, but whatever. What I want to know is what's on the tapes. Eric Trump went on Hannity and said that they did have the surveillance tapes running at Mar-a-Lago, and that they'd be releasing them when the time is right. Wouldn't it be great to end up seeing high-definition footage of these amazingly professional FBI agents going through Melania's closet and sniffing her underwear? God, I can only imagine what's on these tapes. But like Merrick Garland said, oh, these are the most professional people there is, and he will not stand by and let their reputation be tarnished. In this second trial of two of the Whitmer kidnapping suspects, two of them had already been acquitted, and these two had a hung jury, so they're retrying them, and it's come out lots of shit. I mean, first of all, there was more FBI agents than there were suspects. One of them being a female FBI agent that slept with the target and smoked weed with him. This whole case, like so many of the others that the FBI has handed to the public with a little bow on it, it turns out it was the FBI the whole time. Sláinte.
All I have in this world is my thoughts and my word, and I don't break them for no one. You understand? So say good night to the bad guy. 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 Come on. Come on. night.